Welcome to Northlandia, a place to bring you curiosity because here you'll find curiosities. I'm Wyatt Buckner with the Duluth News Tribune, and I'll be your guide as we discover the unique and fascinating stories here in the Northland. Here we celebrate the region's distinctive people, places, and history. In this episode, we reach new heights on the ski jumping slopes in Cloquet just in time for the 2026 Winter Olympics. Let's venture forth into Northlandia. Here to bring Northlandia and the Winter Olympics together is arts and entertainment reporter Jay Gabler. Jay, welcome back.
Thank you, Wyatt. Pleased to be here as an award-winning sports reporter.
Oh, was it for your bear grease story?
Yeah, my story about staying up past midnight at a bear grease checkpoint. Basically, I just talked to a lot of really sleepy but excited people and put it together, and someone decided that was worthy of a certificate. But now I always get to claim that I'm an award-winning sports reporter.
Back to the sports beat as well. Hoping to make a two-peat here, right, for sports coverage?
Hey! Bada, 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 bada. Swing! Is that what you're supposed to say in the sport world?
I don't know. I'm not. I'm the wrong person to ask about sports.
Also, that's the wrong season. This is just a mess.
My knowledge is limited to cameras and associated equipment and knowledge behind that. Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. That's what you get with me. And Northlandia.
I have noticed that. I wasn't going to say anything.
So, Jay, let's get right into it. Like, with the Winter Olympics are coming up here in just a few weeks here, right? It's in middle of February. My sister's actually reffing for the hockey on the women's in these Olympics. So my family's all out there or heading out there pretty soon here.
Wow, there's our Olympic connection. That's what the story should have been about.
Well, our sports editor, Brandon Veal, already did a story connected to that. So that's already been done.
Okay.
So we're not retreading. You know, I don't need to bring my sister on the podcast. Like, someone else can do that. Okay. I can't have that familial connection on the show.
Yeah, even though I don't know too much about sports. I love the Olympics. I love the drama. I love that it's when all the sports that most people never think about, for 4 years in a row, all of a sudden just become absolutely gripping, whether that's a marquee sport like figure skating or a more niche sport like ski jumping, which I think it's fair to say compared to figure skating, maybe fewer people know about or follow our Olympic ski jumpers, but it's when all those sports suddenly become really important and the focus of not just national, but international attention. And living here in the Northland, where we have this storied history with especially Winter Olympic sports, I'm like, all right, there must be a good story to pursue with this once every 4 years opportunity to have a Winter Olympics peg.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like when we talk about the Olympics here in Duluth, especially the Winter Olympics, I feel like the go-to stories usually relate to curling. We've obviously had, Olympic teams that have taken gold from Duluth here, but you took a different approach by going into ski jumping, which I'll be honest, like many sports, my knowledge of is very limited. I'm pretty sure I grew up skiing, downhill skiing. I've skied like in Colorado, in Europe, like Spirit Mountain, on the local level, but I've never done ski jumping. So my extent of knowledge with ski jumping is the movie Eddie the Eagle, with Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman back in 2016,
I've seen it.
I think.
Did I cry? No comment.
But how did you land on writing about the Cloquet Nordic Ski Club?
Well, we've actually just had another great story about ski jumping. I guess I'm presuming mine is great. We've just had a great story about ski jumping and at the Duluth News Tribune. Hopefully mine's okay too. But Ryan Rogers in our outdoors section wrote about ski jumping on the Iron Range and really kind of got into the history of ski jumping in the Northland. And so we kind of have that angle covered. And given that I was interested in ski jumping as a potential sport to write about for all the reasons that you mentioned, Wyatt, that it doesn't quite get the shine that some other winter sports get, such as hockey would be another obvious example up here. Our sports team mentioned to me, well, we've got the team out of Cloquet, where they ski jump. And I had not been to that ski area and don't know too much about ski jumping. And so I thought, all right, well, I'll go and spend an evening with the Cloquet ski jumpers and see what I can learn about their community and their sport, and really had a fascinating time. Our host for the evening was Ken Ripp, who's president of the Cloquet Nordic Ski Club, and he told us about the club's history.
So the Cloquet Ski Club has been around for well over 50 years. It's right now we focus on ski jumping and Nordic skiing. We have 60 ski jumpers and about 120 Nordic skiers. The age range in general is from about 3 years old. Our oldest competitive jumper is 16, but we do have 2 adults who joined this year who are in their 20s who just decided to come out and learn how to ski jump.
So it seems like this club has quite a history.
Yeah, quite a history indeed. Largest club in Minnesota, one of the largest in the country, and just fascinating to look at these ski jumps. I had not really thought about the fact that there might be a difference between one 40-meter ski jump and another, but they are built differently, structured differently, and this does make an impression on the skiers. I ended up talking with a couple of young skiers, Luella Mark and Claire Biebel. I went up to stand between the two ski jumps. They've got their 20-meter and their 40-meter, the two biggest jumps that they have there. And so you're sort of imagining you're on this piece of ground between these two massive ski jumps. It's at night. We were at one of their evening practices, and so you've got all the lights illuminating the jumps and the hills, and it's all very atmospheric. And here are these two kids just, happy-go-lucky, eating snow to stay hydrated. And we talked about the fact that they had both done 40-meter jumps at other locations, at Coleraine specifically, but they had not tried the 40-meter in Cloquet yet. And here's what they had to say about one reason why.
It actually feels a lot lighter because, that looks really risky and it's scary. So, the sides are rusty and it's just scarier. So, it just looks weirder. Yeah.
A little more character.
Yeah, and the one in Coleraine it doesn't look as big. So it's not as intimidating.
So then while writing this story, I actually learned a little bit more about why the ski jump in Cloquet looks intimidating. It is because that is historic steel that ski jump is made with. The 40-meter jump is made with reused steel, reclaimed from old Duluth, Mesabi, and Iron Range Railway water towers.
Oh, wow.
That is some legit building material for your Northland ski jump.
Mm-hmm. And I remember them correctly saying that, what makes them also unique is that they're freestanding structures versus you might see other ski slopes, like, say, at Chester Bowl, I believe, are, kind of built into the slope of the hill. Which, technically still the same height, but, it just has a different feel to it of, you're climbing a freestanding structure that's not built into any surrounding hill of any kind. It just is what it is.
I imagine that feels different. That's what the kids told us, and I'll take their word for it because I do not see myself climbing a 40-meter ski jump, maybe ever in my life.
So it's not even the jump part itself; it's the climbing up part that's got you beat as well.
Oh well, I could. I'm not too afraid of heights. I could do it, but yeah, the jumping part. I was interested to learn that ski jumping, at least here in Cloquet, which is near Duluth where we are, is really a kid's game. There are some adults who ski jump, some who've been ski jumping for a long time, some who actually learn as adults, at least in their 20s, to ski jump. But the majority of the jumpers that we saw and talked to were young people.
Well, at first I would assume that it's partially because of the knees, as soon as I turned 30 and my knees are just it's a little extra hard to, a little extra tough on them sometimes.
I would tend to think so. And also I just think of, as someone who, as we've now explained at great length, is someone who has not ski jumped, but think of that as being the kind of pursuit that you really kind of have to work up to and train for years to be able to do it. But the kids we talked to started jumping when they were very young. We talked to a couple of really accomplished young ski jumpers named Astrid Morris and Frances Langer, and we asked them when they got started.
I started skiing when I was 2, and actually started jumping the tag when I was 3 or 4. I was around 2 when I started skiing, and then 4 when I started ski jumping.
Now, I've touched on it a little bit for myself, Jay, but just curious for yourself, context-wise, what's kind of your history with skiing? Do you have any history with just any kind of skiing?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I have been on skis twice in my life, once to do a bunny hill at a downhill ski slope in Wisconsin, and once to go cross-country skiing in Minnesota. And those were the 2 times. And I think skis are beautiful. I think it is an incredible sport in all its varieties. I learned a little bit more about the differences between downhill skiing or alpine skiing and Nordic skiing, where your boot is attached differently to your ski. But in terms of my interest in personally getting involved in that and what I expect would be my skill were I to attempt it at any greater length, I just don't see that as being, so to speak, a hill I'm prepared to climb. You know what I think of when I think of skiing? I think of there is a Netflix app for the Meta VR headset. And you basically just put on your VR headset and you watch Netflix. And the VR aspect is that it creates this virtual environment for you to sit and essentially watch a big virtual TV in. And so it interests me that what they decided on for having been able to choose any virtual environment that would feel like a cozy place to sit and watch TV, they choose essentially a ski chalet. So you are sitting on a couch in a room that appears to be near a ski slope, and you look to your left and there's a window, and you're looking at this virtual window and you're looking up at these illuminated ski slopes at night. And then you turn and look in front of you and there's Netflix. And there is something sort of cozy and inspiring to know that skiing happens in the world and someone else is out there shushing down the slopes or taking off the ski jumps. And I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm glad it's fun, exhilarating for them. Probably will not be something that I get into.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. I grew up with skiing. Like, I was probably similar age to them, it sounds like, when I first started going down the slopes at Chester Bowl and stuff, learned to ski, done it most of my life. But I could never do jumps to save my life. Even like little tiny, like little hops. I'm like, nope. The feeling of like trying to catch yourself afterwards, not something that I ever quite got over when it came to any kind of jumping, let alone like the big ski jumps.
And what struck me was, given how objectively hard this is, obviously you can do it if you're a kid, if you work at it. And these kids did work at it. Given what a daunting in some ways sort of activity this is, the vibe was just immaculate at this ski club sort of, practice session. It was open. There are all these dozens of members of the club come out. The kids of all ages just seemed delighted to be there. The parents were hanging out, just sort of chatting and catching up. There are all sorts of coaches up there working with the kids. The kids are just like delighted, getting to go back up the lift and try again. And they're all cheering for each other. And everything was just very relaxed. I was just really impressed with what a great atmosphere they've created there in Cloquet and what a positive experience it seems to be for kids, some of whom are competing at the national level already, but some of whom it's just a Thursday night. You live in Cloquet, you can join an alpine ski club and go do some ski jumping if you have it in you. Why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Now, these two kids we talked to, they seem really camera ready. Like, they actually held themselves together pretty well for a first-time camera interview, at least to our knowledge.
Oh, yeah. I don't envy our colleagues on the sports desk because based on what you see on TV, athlete interviews and coach interviews are not fun because, these are people who are they're professional athletes or experienced athletes, collegiate athletes, high school athletes. That's what they do well. What they do not do well necessarily is explaining in interesting, relatable language what exactly happened in that game or on that jump or what have you. But yeah, Astrid and Francis were just delightful, really open and happy to share all the details of their sport with us. And one thing that I was reflecting on, especially with the Olympics coming right up, and I think it's interesting about a sport like ski jumping or curling or one of these smaller sports in the grand scheme of things, is that the distance between you and people who will compete at the national and international level, who will be going to compete in the Winter Olympics, is just inherently smaller. And so that people we're talking to in Cloquet know people who have or who might compete in the Olympics, right? They know these world-class athletes, and it really gives them a special extra exhilaration to be able to watch them on TV, or maybe in some cases they go in person. But yeah, I really appreciated just how candid everyone was with us on how much they're willing to humor being interviewed by someone who knows not too much about ski jumping. And then Wyatt, you actually asked Astrid and Francis, I really appreciate this, you asked them to talk about how ski jumping exactly works, right? What goes into going down that slope, or the in-run, as I gather it's called, and then making the jump, and, what makes you better or worse at it, what you practice. And here was what they had to say in response to that question.
There's like the in-run, which you kind of like bend on your knees, and then you kind of like, I don't know.
Make sure like your legs are like kind of shoulder width and not together, because that kind of reduces how far you can jump. And also jumping out instead of up is very good, because if you just jump up, the only reason you're going forward is because of the speed you have going down. And when you jump forward, you actually give yourself like a little bit more of a boost forward.
How do you control whether you go up or out?
You kind of have to like keep your chest low in the end run and only jump with your legs, not like popping your chest. So,
And our boots that we wear are kind of slanted forward, so you can't like fully stand up straight. So it's kind of helps, so it kind of guides your legs in the direction. And and kind of like pushing out with your chest, like instead of just popping up, you kind of push out.
Yeah, for me, it was interesting to hear that, technical breakdown. But on top of that as well, I also had to ask them, going back to my ski history, and like I couldn't really do little tiny jumps that are just kind of on the hill there. That's why I didn't really get into ski racing either, because they'd be little tiny like hop jumps there, and I'm like, nope, I can't do it. Was to ask them as well about like the mental side of how do you bring yourself to do it, And I liked what they both kind of laid out of like you just kind of count down 3, 2, 1, and you have to go.
Yeah. That their coach, they were saying, tells them to just, know what you need to know and have a routine, it sounds like, is what you do, right? You get up there and you've had your safety checks and you're set to go, and then you don't overthink it, because the more you overthink it, the worse it's going to turn out. And there, actually, I could relate, not because I've ski jumped, but because I golf. And similarly there, it's like you...
Okay, I'm interested to see how you're going to connect those two things.
Well, so they're both individual sports, right? It's
True.
like it's pretty much your performance is determined by you, and then, the weather conditions, what have you. But it's pretty much, nobody's trying to stop you. Nobody's going to block your golf ball or going to jump in the way of your your skis as you head down the slope. So it becomes very much a head game. You know that really this is all on you, how this is going to go. And there are all these variables that you consider. I don't know what they all are in ski jumping, but you've chosen your club, you figure out what you're going to do with the lie or whatever, and then you get ready to swing and you think it through as much as you think you need to, but you can't overthink it, because if you do, then you just freeze up and choke up and you top it, or the kinds of things that I can do anyway. But it doesn't help to overthink something.
And so, as we're talking about, like, you're seeing kids like fly through the air off of these, more so the 20 and especially the 40 meter jump. The 10's a little more of like manageable, it seems like, from a safety perspective. But how are they ensuring safety for these gigantic jumps that they're flying through the air on?
Yeah, Ken Ripp talked to us about all the measures that are in place to ensure that when a kid, or an adult for that matter, is allowed to participate in a jump of a given height, there are a whole bunch of steps to make sure that that is going to be suitable for them and safe for them in general and in the moment.
It's a great growing tool for kids. It teaches confidence. It teaches respect. And once you start on like the 10 and the 20, you have to talk to an adult after every jump. We talk to the kids, and if the kids travel to another club, then they're talking to other coaches, and so that they learn to address adults, a lot of respect, safety, a lot of responsibility. When they get up there on that bar, they're going to get flagged by the person who's ever coaching right now, and they have to make sure all their equipment is right and correct before they leave. There's not a parent up there checking their equipment, and so we're going to watch Franny here. And there's a person making sure that everything's as safe as it can be. And the thing about the sport is people have this perception that it's not safe, but actually everything is controlled. We're out here raking landings, make sure everything is super smooth, and everyone follows the rules on keeping things safe.
Man, I can see why most ski jumpers start young, because even with all that being said, I still feel like I'd struggle with like wrapping my head around and getting myself to do it. It's kind of impressive to hear him mention that earlier, that there are 20-year-olds that started up, like it's just the mental work required for it, in addition to the physical, to get over those, like accepting the safety aspect of it. I don't know, man.
Yeah, for the right kind of person, if your brain works that way and your body works that way, it must be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. But that's kind of what I also like about this job sometimes, is that we can kind of sort of live slightly vicariously, through telling their stories, capturing their visuals, very much like I love capturing like sled dog racing and stuff. I'm never going to do it, but I love capturing it and sort of like experiencing it in that like bystander approach to it.
Yeah, and even though this is not, the kind of ski jumping that you would see in a competition, for example, even a competition held in Cloquet, it was still, these are really, really, really accomplished people going down these jumps. And to be up close, you and I were both at the bottom of the jumps where they're taking off, and you see them go and hear them land, and just, to sense just by proximity the power of that, and the speed and the poise and confidence and experience and training that has gone into this. And then at the other end, literally the other end, for a while we were standing up at the top of the slope that looks up on the ski jumps, and basically the jumpers land on the downslope and then they encounter this upslope that slows them down, but they're moving quickly enough that there's a kind of a dramatic stopping motion that happens as they come to the top of this sort of like upslope. And so you're just standing there and they're all just coming in shoom 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 shoom, and just the power and grace of that is really was really cool to see. And as I enjoy watching, as I was saying, Olympic sports for reasons like this, but no matter how big your TV is, there's nothing like being there in person to see how athletes execute these feats.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you think makes it all worth it for those who are participating in ski jumping?
Well, I asked the people we talked to, and here's what Astrid Morris had to say.
One of my favorite things is being able to jump and just feel like you're flying through the air. And all the friends that I've met doing it, like I met her ski jumping when I was really young. And so we've just had a bond over ski jumping.
To paraphrase something that Ken said, another point, there aren't that many sports where you get to fly. And there's a lot of airtime in ski jumping compared to other sports where you leave the ground. I mean, we talk about Air Jordan, right? You fly in a sense in basketball, but it's not quite the same. So I think that sense of you doing something that it really feels like you are challenging the laws of nature in a sense, but in a way that, those laws of nature are going to work for you if you do it right. You land safely and you get as far as you can and you negotiate the wind in a certain way. There must be something really distinctive about that. And, the kids we talked to, including some who I talked to just sort of chatting, not even for a formal interview, said it's one of their favorite things to do. Some people go out on Thursday nights and bowl. Some people get together and play D&D. Some people just, sit in front of the TV or read a book. And this is just their lifestyle.
And some people do all those things. Be a very busy schedule, but you could.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure, the people we talk to, I mean, there are more nights of the week as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have their D&D nights and their video game nights and what have you. But there's really, I, again, was just struck by how for a situation where you're basically watching a bunch of people training for what can be, if you get to that level, a competition. And you don't even need to be competing at the national level, very seriously to be having competitions. There's a competition in Cloquet just recently. So you are sort of training for competition in a sense. You're training to, compete with yourself, if nothing else. I was just struck by how just really pleasant and joyful the mood was. This is something that clearly the people who participate in it are really, really enjoying.
And Jay, why do you think that this fits in Northlandia? It's a little different than our other stories. I mean, obviously ski jumping is not unique to the Northland specifically. Obviously, it's in the Olympics. I don't think it'd be in the Olympics if it was just Northlandia. But why do you think it fits into our unique realm?
Yeah, there are some things that are distinctive about this region of the country that on the face of them don't have to do with the geography of this place, that it just happens to be something that was founded here. I mean, I think about when we covered the doll museum, right, where you happen to have someone who brought this incredible collection of finely crafted dolls here. It's like that is a story about the Northland, but the dolls could have been made elsewhere, right? There are doll stories elsewhere, and there are ski jumping stories elsewhere, but this is the kind of story I feel like wouldn't hit the same, so to speak, anywhere else. There now is, and you can read more about this in the DNT's other story about jumping on the range. There used to be more ski jumping that happened up here in the Northland. There's less now than there once was, and what I gather is that it's part and parcel of what's happened with other winter sports, where it used to be really difficult to participate in a winter sport if you didn't live in a wintry area. And so if you wanted to be a really good hockey player or ski jumper or what have you, you'd want to be living in the Northland. And if you were living here, that was a really huge opportunity that you would take advantage of. Plus, there was maybe less else to do other than that up here. And then there were population shifts. Big cities got even bigger. So just the number of people living in the Northland proportionally is fewer than it once was. And then there have been technological changes. So especially at the very competitive levels, there are more different opportunities to even do ski jumping, right? If you don't live in a very northerly place, there's all sorts of technology now. And so for a range of reasons, these winter sports are just not as central to the culture up here as they once were, nor is this region as central to the culture of those sports as it once was. So in a sense, there's a sort of there's a historical legacy here, but there's something poignant about the fact that it's not what it once was. And yet, this is still a distinctive feature of living in our region. And I just think about after we were done reporting, I had to pick a couple things up at the grocery store, and there happened to be a Super One just right outside the ski area there. So I just pulled in, grabbed some milk and whatever. And it just struck me, it's like, we just, watched skiers fly through the air off these, giant ski jumps made from reclaimed railroad water tower steel. And they've got all their, quality equipment and all their training. And this whole distinctive culture that happens here. But it's in Cloquet. It's a neighborhood. The life happens around this. It's not something that's off on a mountain somewhere that you have to go far away to do. And the vast majority of the people who participate in Cloquet, I gather, are from pretty close to the immediate region, that they really are from town, not even as far as Duluth. They're actually from Cloquet. So I just love that. I thought this story illuminates a corner of Northland culture that is still just a routine part of growing up for these kids and for, community life. If you're an adult and you want to participate as a skier yourself or as a coach. And of course, there's the whole cross-country skiing aspect of alpine skiing, which we didn't talk about, but probably should at least acknowledge that is also part of alpine skiing. And there are events that combine jumping and alpine skiing. So that's part of what happens as well. We focused on ski jumping, but cross-country skiing is a big part of this as well. And anyway, this is just part of community life in Cloquet. I just thought it was cool to witness that and document that.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jay. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Well, before we fully wrap it up, though, I'm just curious. Is there any particular sport you're interested in watching during the upcoming Olympics?
Well, I'll definitely be watching the entire Winter Olympics differently living in Duluth than I would even living elsewhere.
Oh, is this your first Olympics
Minnesota.
being here since starting at the D&T?
Yeah, the last one would have been winter 2022, so happening right around the time I was moving up here in February 2022. And so, now having been here for 4 years, I've experienced that you can just go to the Duluth Curling Club and, there's a gold medalist just there, running around with his kid, in the club. And it'll definitely hit a little bit different. And I will say, even though this particular story is about ski jumping, and this will help me to enjoy watching ski jumping in the Olympics, curling and hockey are those are the two big sports in terms of people from Duluth who are involved. And I happen to know more about curling than I do about hockey because I have a friend who's involved with the Duluth Curling Club. And so we've gone and met some people there and learned more about the sport. So, of course, rooting for all of our U.S. curling teams this year, all of whom are from Minnesota, essentially, but especially, of course, going to be rooting for Team Corey and Corey in mixed doubles, from the Duluth Curling Club representing on the international stage. What about you, Wyatt?
Well, I might be a little busy coming up with the Olympic season, but I imagine I probably should watch my sister ref a little bit with the women's hockey. But I always thought speed skating looks kind of cool. I was talking to my parents about that the other day when they were visiting. That I wish I got more into speed skating when I was younger because I like skate. I didn't love hockey necessarily as I got older, but I love skating fast or trying to skate fast. So it's kind of fun to watch how fast they whip around.
Yeah, I had a friend in high school who was a competitive speed skater at the prep level, and her Monday morning stories about tournaments just made my head spin in terms of what goes into performing in that kind of context. It's neat.
Yeah, and before we fully wrap it here, I just want to give a quick note for our listeners, so you're not caught off guard later, but I will be taking some leave coming up here soon. I'm not going away forever, but my esteemed colleague Dan Williamson will kind of taking over the hosting roles for a bit here. I feel like it's kind of, we're going back in time 2 years, Jay. We gave a similar kind of warning for you taking leave. Now it's my turn now, couple years later here. So don't be too alarmed when you hear someone else's voice other than mine for the next few episodes.
Yeah, and I was gratified to learn when I went on leave that there were people who posted on social media being like, "What happened to Jay? Why did Jay leave the DNT?" And where I was like, "No, it's a leave. It's a leave. It's good. He'll be back."
Well, to be fair, you do more than just like a voice on one podcast. You write a lot of bylines, and you have a whole beat that you cover that your name is seen on. I feel like I'd be less. This podcast might be the only where my name might be missed.
Don't undersell yourself, Wyatt. I mean, in the story that I write that you do, photos and video for, I mean, your name appears 12 times in that story. Mine
That's
just
true.
once, and that's for good reason. That's for good reason.
Under each individual photo.
Yes.
All right, Jay. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and I look forward to listening to the podcast remotely until I'm able to rejoin you again in the coming months.
Yeah, and enjoy your leave, Wyatt, and we'll see you when you get back.
And thank you for joining us on this venture into Northlandia. To read the article for this episode, as well as see photos and video produced by myself, visit DuluthNewsTribune.com/topics/Northlandia. If you enjoy this podcast and would like to support us, consider becoming a subscriber to Duluth News Tribune at DuluthNewsTribune.com/subscribe. Join us again next time and discover the extraordinary stories that you just might miss from in the right place at the right time, ready to step off the beaten path on the rush to return, here in Northlandia.